Hello everyone and welcome to another live stream. This is from the Computing Engineering and Media faculty and we're here to talk all about journalism, the different undergrad degrees that are in journalism. There's a range of sort of single and joint honours and a range of different things that you can get involved with, and we are joined by some academics and some students today to talk about sort of the different things you can get up to in journalism and sort of how to become a journalist and all that sort of stuff. So in journalism, the courses at DMU, they range from doing things like traditional journalism, principles of journalism, all that sort of stuff, as well as the other practical stuff, which is like video and photography, interview skills. And yeah, so I'm going to wait a little bit before we get going to let people join. But first, we'll talk to you a little bit about the academics we have. So we're joined by Brian and Lee. So I want to say hi. Do you want to introduce yourselves?
Hello.
Hi, I'm Brian Dodds and I'm the program leader for the journalism courses. I'm a journalist of 30 years experience working in newspapers and digital formats. I was a local newspaper editor for 12 years, and I worked freelance for Sky Sports News as well as a digital journalist. Nowadays, I concentrate mainly on teaching the next generation of students, of journalists.
Okay,
I work with Brian. My name's Lee Marlowe. I'm a journalist, really, just like Brian. I was a journalist for 25 years. I still write. I still write a bit of sports journalism now. I was mainly a feature writer for the Leicester Mercury, but I also did stuff for Classic Rock magazine and Bass Player magazine. And I've been teaching now at Montfort University for 2.5 years.
Great. So we've got a range of experience here and academics here to join with us and talk to us all about sort of what people can get up to if they join a journalism course here. Because there are a range of like loads of different journalism courses, aren't there?
Yes, I mean, there's a whole sorts of options that you can go into. Essentially, we run a single honours journalism course, which really gears you up with something called the NCTJ diploma, which is a qualification as well as your degree, that really gears you up to being a professional journalist and getting jobs in as a journalist in various formats. And we also run joint honours courses where you choose to do half your degree in journalism and half of it in another subject such as creative writing, history, English language. And again, all the fundamentals of being a journalist are taught as part of those joint honours modules. And within those two streams, there are various options that come into play, and you can choose certain modules. And by the third year, there are things like sports journalism, broadcast journalism, arts and entertainments, and within the various core courses, you learn the skills such as newspaper writing, website, news, features, photography, video, blogging, using social media, all the skills that modern day journalists use every day. So there's a lot of range of that you can choose from as you go through.
Yeah. And we also are joined by a couple of students that study journalism currently. So I believe we're going to get a little bit of an introduction to them now. Yes. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, hi, my name's Salma. I'm a journalism and politics second year student at DMU.
And hi, I'm Beatrice. I do single honours journalism and I'm also second year.
Great. So those two will be able to answer any questions you have about sort of being a student and student experience. I'm currently a student as well. I study media production, so it's a bit of a different course, but I can also answer any questions. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to firstly hand over to Brian and Lee, who are going to talk a little bit about the course as a whole, and they probably will speak to Salma and Beatrice as well along the way. So do you guys want to take it away?
Thank you very much. So give you a bit of an idea of how we take things. When our students arrive, we very, very, very quickly try and get them into the framework of thinking as journalists. And from day one, lesson one, you're doing learning some of the practical skills that you need to be as a journalist. Basically, finding out information from people, learning interview techniques, finding out what sorts of elements of information are needed in order to produce news stories, what things people are interested in. So we help a whole series of lessons teaching you how to do all those elements. That moves on very quickly into trying to get things published. So we use our website, Leicestershire Press website, which we'll come back to a bit later on, and other formats to get all our students into the framework of writing stories and publishing them to share to other people. Lee is one of our first year tutors as well as myself, and we have a sort of a structured program to teach you how to build and construct stories. It's much harder than you think. And maybe Salma and Beatrice, maybe you'd like to say a little bit about your early days as coming and writing news stories. Did you know what it meant? Did you know how to write news stories?
I can say that as I'm international, I'm European, it was very scary to start writing and start working and talking to people in general. But I think once you start doing it, and during the course we are really pushed to start doing stuff, the more you do, the better you get at it, and the more comfortable you are doing it. So.
Was that a similar experience for yourself, Salma?
Yeah, I think because I haven't had any direct contact with journalism as a subject before. I've done editing, InDesign as the technical part of it, but not the writing part of it. But the thing is, I always enjoyed writing and reading. It's something that I've always been passionate about. So the thing with the journalism course is that it gave me the confidence that I lacked, and all the right skills in order to improve my writing and to be really good at it.
I would have a question about how you talk about, because the journalism has a bunch of different courses with joint and single honours. What are the core sort of modules and things that you learn across possibly all of those courses?
Well, the core skills that you learn are, and I'm sure Lee will agree with me, that they're the basic skills that you need to tell a story. And that skill of being able to tell a story, you then layer on learning about how to tell that in different formats. So whether it's a breaking news story, or you're telling a feature story that has a lot more depth, and often about people and people's emotions, and whether you're telling that story to appear online, and whether you're telling that story to be told in a video format, for example, or maybe with photographs, or a combination of all of these. So we start for all joint honours and single honours students with this basic idea of how to gather and write a story. They're the basic core skills. So everybody does that. Alongside that, we have the various academic modules, which again joint and single honours students do, that learning a bit of how to analyse and study the background issues that go on that affect the world of journalism. So at the moment, a lot of the stuff about fake news, or about maybe Donald Trump and the way he and Boris Johnson might be trying to control the news agenda, and how to and maybe trying to control journalists or control the news that goes out. So all these issues are looked into in the academic courses. Lee, maybe you could tell us a little bit about the second year courses where
Yes. Yeah, I think just to add to what you've said as well, Brian, is what I found about working at DMU, and I've been kind of looking, I've worked at other universities, is the way that it works at DMU is that we teach you how to walk before we teach you how to run. So that first year, we give you all the elementary kind of journalism skills to be a news reporter. And so, but then in the first year, you have confidence in going out, speaking to people, interviewing them, recording them, and the difference between, how each story is going to work on each different platform. And in the second year, that's when you spread your wings a little bit, and that's how we teach you kind of like magazine journalism, longer form feature writing. I mean, I taught both Selma and Beatrice this year, and I've seen both of their writing has improved massively from September last year until this year. I mean, that's what I think. I hope that you two feel the same as well, because I think you've been really good students to have in the class, and your writing has definitely improved, and that's what we want to see as your lecturers. Really, we want to see that kind of that arc, that progression in your writing.
Yeah. So I've had a question come in from YouTube as well, and someone's asking about. They're asking about journalism. They know what sort of things it's a general degree, but they want to know how does production elements how are they important in journalism? I think they're talking about sort of like recording of interviews and things like that.
Okay, well, thank you, Haida, for that question. Modern journalists have to have a whole load of technical skills, and as Lee and I have mentioned, we start off trying to make sure that the core telling a story skills are embedded for all our students, and that runs throughout all the courses. But we do introduce the various technical and media production skills as we go along. So by the third year, Beatrice will be doing video reports to tell the story again, but doing it in this different video format and doing it to professional standards. We do have Demon Media, which is a student-run media organization that operates television and radio, as well as magazine and website teams. And maybe Alice might tell us a little bit more about that. And I know Salma and Beatrice have been involved in that. And in those, you get to practice, maybe, for example, if you want to be a radio presenter, many more of the technical skills that are involved in there. Our journalism courses don't focus hugely on the technical media production sides of things. We do have media production courses here at DMU that really focus much more on that side of things, and the broadcast journalism program as well. So our journalism and joint honours journalism courses do not spend vast amounts of time in television studios learning the technical aspects of that side of things. We focus so much more on the telling the story and using the digital formats. These days, these things play a massive role, and using the smartphone to be a digital journalist. So learning how to go out armed just with this to find a story, interview people, record videos and photos, write the story on your phone and publish it while you're out in the field. That's a sort of a core skill that becomes part of the course as you progress through into the third year. And it means that our students who leave the DMU with their journalism degree really can go anywhere in the world, and wherever they are, if something's happening that's newsworthy, they should be able to report it and publish it and let the world know what's happening with video and photograph evidence. That's sort of a main theme of what we do. So, for example, in the coronavirus situation that we have at the moment, students have been able to write stories from wherever they are, at home or in Leicester, wherever they are, writing stories for their coursework. because they've been armed with the skills of being mobile journalists.
Yeah, so you kind of sort of answered their next question that they have as well, which is about what sort of jobs are out there for journalism and if they can go to other countries and do things in different things in the industry. And like you were saying about sort of video and stuff like that, having those key skills of self-shooting is quite important, isn't it, when you're telling a story? So do you have any more to add about sort of the jobs that are out there?
Well, obviously the sort of the standard job would be working as a reporter, and reporters are, as important as ever in covering events and letting people know what's happening around the world. But the basic role of a reporter comes in so many different formats these days, and within the media industry, there are many different jobs that would not necessarily be classed as strict reporter roles. So I over the last year, I've been training national media people who are not strictly reporters, but they work on writing headlines for the Daily Mirror website, or they work on social media for such organisations. There is a vast array of jobs and roles that take place that our students go into. Allied to that is a vast industry of public relations. Many people who come through our courses do go on into public relations roles, because the skills of a journalist are very highly valued within that industry. Myself and Lee have both worked, done bits of work within public relations at times in our career, as well as much more traditional journalism jobs. So there are huge variety of jobs available, and I think maybe Beatrice can confirm, as Beatrice is from Portugal and has come over to study here at Montfort University. But I know Beatrice has also gone back and done work experience back in Lisbon, I think it was. Maybe you could tell us whether the skills that you learn here on the course are easily translatable and usable in other countries.
Yeah, so I did 4 months, I think it was 4 months internship in Lisbon. And yeah, to be fair, I felt more prepared than anyone else. And I was doing it with people who had master's degrees, so
that's good.
I think that's enough.
It's absolutely true that the core skills that we literally teach you from day one are the skills that can be used in a whole range of different careers and life paths that you go on, and they're fundamental skills that you'll be surprised when you leave university. They stay with you for the rest of your life.
Great. So that really did show that there are sort of a range of different things that can be involved with that don't necessarily always look at just being journalism. There's sort of different things you can get involved with, especially after you've left. From the same person again, they want to know about, with the degree, do students get trained in interviewing at different settings and environments? Because they want to know about the opportunity for going to war-torn countries, that sort of thing.
Yes, I mean, you do get trained. Sorry, Lee, you were about to say something?
No. I mean, we do try to train our young journalists in all kinds of different settings, but I think we do draw the line at war-torn countries. I don't think we want to be sending first or second years off into war-torn countries. But we do send people out pretty much early on in the first course. You'll go out and vox pop people. You will do bigger interviews. You will do phone interviews. And it is all about instilling that confidence. I remember saying to one of my students in the first year this year, and he didn't want to go out. He felt really scared about going out. And he said, well, you can go out. This is your sword. This is your shield. And this is your sword. And you've just got to get used to that kind of, this is what I do in my job. And eventually it becomes like a second nature. And we instill that in you over that 3-year period.
And we have had, former students who've gone on to work in all sorts of arenas all over the world, including covering crises and so on. But depending on the paths that your career takes, you could end up in all sorts of places. I've worked in strange places all over the world, in Hungary and so on. Not that Hungary was war torn. But there are elements of our academic modules which do delve quite deeply into the ethics and the dangers and the situations about reporting in different arenas. And one of our tutors specialises very much in peace journalism and how journalists can influence world affairs, and are there ethical obligations on journalists to report in such ways that help bring communities together rather than dividing them. And these are very important issues that need to be thought about as you maybe progress it further in your career. We do, although talking about reporting in countries that might be at war, we from day one also try to impress upon our students that we're going to send you out into the lovely streets of Leicester, but as anywhere, the lovely streets of Leicester there might be dangers out there that you have to be aware of. So we don't want our students bowling straight into dangerous situations. A couple of years ago, I was very pleased that some of my students there was a situation evolving around them, that there was a man with a gun, basically, and they obviously had the news sense that this was a breaking story, that there was something to be aware of, but they maintained their safety and kept out of gunshots reach, which is absolutely paramount. So I don't want anyone to have the impression that happens often in Leicester at all, but it is part of we try to make people aware. Don't, as a journalist, put yourself in a position of danger. I hope that helps answer that question.
I think that answers the question. Wonder if there's anything else you want to talk about generally about the course, or if you want to start going to possibly the work that maybe Salma and Beatrice have done this year.
Oh, well, it would be nice if we could have a look at the Leicestershire Press website. This is a platform that the students have for their coursework and other work to be published. And it's a very successful news website, features website, and we get a lot of readers from it. Maybe that top story there, we could look at that. I'm Just Torn Apart. If we can click on that one. That's a story by Beatrice. Maybe you could talk us through what gave you the idea for the story and how you went about getting it.
So I think that story was for a news day. And this is after coronavirus. So I just decided to interview some international students and find out how they were, because obviously I'm an international student, so I knew we are kind of in a special situation and probably a lot of people don't know about it. So I just tried to find some other international students and see how they were. And I found out that many of them were just stuck in Leicester because they couldn't return to their home country. So they were alone without their families. And yeah, many of them were struggling because of it.
It's a very good story, and it's been very well read. It's been consistently in the most read stories on our web page for a few weeks now. So I was very pleased with that story that you did, Beatrice. And in a way, it illustrates the flexibility of our course and our industry. So that day, myself and the students were originally supposed to be going into our computer labs and working as a news team all day, working on stories physically in that newsroom and publishing stories. The coronavirus crisis came along, and it was just a few days after restrictions were put in place. but we simply carried on with our news day. Beatrice and her fellow students were working from home, using the internet and the various digital tools that were available to them, and we continued to publish stories that day, just as journalists have continued to do so around the world. So it's a very important lessons that were learned just by the changing situation around the world. Maybe we could now look at one of Salma's stories, and Salma, talk us through how you know, what gave you the idea for that story, and then what you did to get it.
Yeah, I remember it was one of, if not my first published story, one of the first that I published it was also during the news day. And I remember going through all the possible events and panel discussions and things that may happen here in Leicester. And I found out that the great-grandson of Alice Hawkins was giving a discussion, a speech in a church. And I remember seeing that person. I went to that place where he was, and I got the chance to interview him. I remember I was really nervous. I didn't know how to start interviewing him. I just had my phone and my notepad. I just went with it. But the good thing was that the next day in Newsday, my work got published. I got my notes and everything, and I just had to write my story. The good thing is that was my first story that got published, and then I can see how my writing has improved and how my confidence improved, because I remember being really nervous. But once I started, interviewing the person and seeing how he answered my questions really nicely and everything, I just felt like I was, a professional journalist and that I was doing my job right. So yeah, it was a great experience, and it taught me a lot of things.
I think that is one of the most important lessons that our students learn as they go through, and I always call it a journey, because it is a journey. Is getting that self-confidence that you can do this and you can be a journalist, and it doesn't matter who you're going to meet tomorrow, that you can go and interview them and ask them questions. This year, our second year class, on one of their news days, it just so happened, it turned out Prince Charles and his wife Camilla were visiting Leicester that day. So there we went, sent a whole bundle of students out there to see where he was and what he was doing. They were doing live Facebook Live broadcasts at the scene. They were doing photographs and so on. And two of the students managed to have a quick, very fleeting, but quick word with Prince Charles. Now, I'm not sure they would have done that a year earlier. Not necessarily would have put themselves forward for that, but the confidence that they built up meant that they just did it as part of the news day. Be second nature to them.
Great. Do you have anything else about the course that you'd like to go through? Would you like me to hand over to some questions we have?
If there are some more questions, maybe that would be nice.
We could talk about DMU Media possibly, and the Salma and Beatrice's probably involvement in that. As a general sort of overview, DMU Media is a student society, so it's an optional thing to be involved in. So it's something extra to put down on sort of like a CV or something. And it works kind of like work experience, but it's purely run by students. So there is a student magazine, which you can write for in print and online at the moment. And then we have Demon FM, which is for they have a lot of news stuff. And then we have a show called In Focus that talks a lot about sort of current affairs that are going on. And then we also have Demon TV, which is sort of videos, which can be anything for anything from news to entertainment and all that sort of stuff. So did either of you want to talk a little bit about anything you've done before?
Yeah, I can talk about Demon magazine. So basically, as you said, it was run by students, and the good thing about it is that it's a great opportunity for someone who wants to build up your portfolio regarding, your third year, that you have to present a portfolio with your work experience and things that you've done. So it's really interesting because you have the chance to write and see your work published both in the online platform and the published the magazine, which is it's published on a monthly basis. And the good thing is that it's because it's not academic work, it's something that you do just for passion, is that you don't have that pressure that your work is going to be marked or anything. Just do it because you enjoy it. So it's really good. And you can write about loads of things. Each month they give you a list of topics that you can write about. And if you're not really interested in those topics, you can always, bring up new ideas, and the editors are happy to include them. And but still you've got deadlines. You've got a deadline because, especially with the monthly magazine that is published, you have a deadline that you have to complete. So you have that experience of writing for a magazine and that professional sense that you're doing something that you're gonna have to do if you want to pursue a career in journalism in the future. So it's a great opportunity for someone who is studying journalism, but also there are a lot of people that are not studying journalism or anything related to that also participate in the Demon magazine and write about things that they like, or just because they enjoy writing. But for journalism students, it's something that you can't miss, because it's really nice, because you get the chance to put in practice all the skills that you learn in your workshops, seminars and lectures, and you really enjoy. You have that freedom to write about things that you don't have a chance to write about them, for your assignments or so. So it's really interesting. And also you learn a lot of things, and you learn from your mistakes as well, during your things that you publish, that you're going to use it for your academic work. So it's really a great opportunity regarding that. So
yeah, great. So the Demon magazine is online as well as in print, and there are many opportunities to do that. And as like you mentioned, with sort of different students being able to be involved, it means you can meet people outside of your course as well that may not even know much about journalism before, but can learn from you, and you can learn from their experiences that they have as well. Beatrice, did you have anything about Demon Media that you'd want to sort of talk about? Any experiences that you had, something maybe you'd written that you're quite proud of?
Yeah, so I agree with everything Salma said. Last year, I started a podcast with a friend, and it was just really an hour in the week where we were together and just chat about current affairs or anything we were interested in that week. And then we turned out to be nominated for the Student Radio Awards in London. So yeah, that was great fun, and it was a great opportunity to meet many people. And then this year I was the editor for Student Discussion, the magazine. And yeah, I think the Demon is just a platform for you to share your passion, whatever it is. Because I remember having a really long list of articles I wanted to write, but I didn't have the opportunity to do it. And many of them end up being published in the Demon, either online or at the printed magazine. And yeah, I think that's the best thing about the Demon. It just gives you an opportunity to share your work with everyone.
Great. So you've had an involvement with FM with the podcasting then. So with the pod, we had FM with podcasting, and sort of they do live show as well. Not currently, as we're not in the studio, but we also have the Demon, which is an online platform. We also have Demon TV, which do a lot of news things as well. Something we did in my first year is we covered the Hinckley Road explosion that happened. We had a group of people that went down there with some cameras, spoke to the fire department, and managed to make a little sort of news bundle from that, which we could use across FM and magazine, and that was quite a nice cross-platform thing that we got to do. We have had a question about the journalism courses being impacted for COVID-19. There is a microsite you can go to for that. So if you want to learn anything about what's happening with COVID and also the benefit, the things that are happening with the university as a result of that, you can go to that site and get any information from there. We do have a couple more questions that we could possibly go over, and we do have some photos from journalism courses that we can flick through whilst I ask these questions. They might be more directed to sort of you guys as students, if Salma and Beatrice will maybe want to answer these. So we have a question about sorry, I just read the question wrong, that was my fault. Can you join societies in your first year? I feel like we've kind of covered that, but did you guys join in first year, or was it sort of second year that you got involved?
I joined first year.
Yeah, I did. I started first year too. Yeah,
so it's something you can get involved with from the start. These photos are from, is it from different parts of the journalism courses? Was that Brian?
Yes, I mean, there's a range of photos there. This particular one that's on the screen at the moment was taken in Prague in the Czech Republic when I took a group of students out there to work as journalists for a fortnight. So this photo is showing us doing a news day in a Wi-Fi cafe in the middle of Prague, which was a lot of fun. But it kind of shows the variety of things we do. We've done a Wi-Fi news, a news day from a Wi-Fi cafe in Leicester before. And maybe one of the other photos you could. So Lee, do you want to talk us through this? This is.
This is a shot from the press box in the King Power Stadium, the home of Leicester City. We do a third year sports journalism module. It runs for the second half of the third year. This is for people from either single honours journalism or joint honours, or even media and academic students. And what we do, that's a 4-month long practical sports journalism course where we teach you to write like a sports journalist. And one of the assessment there is a real life match report from the press box at Leicester City, which is, well, it's every bit as good as it sounds, really. This is not like an assessment. This is just a really brilliant day out.
And another photo, I think, shows some of the guests that you have.
Yeah, so it is. It's a very kind of hands-on, kind of behind-the-scenes kind of module, really. This is on the picture on the right is in the home changing room of the Leicester Tigers in Welford Road. That changing room has hardly changed in 100 years, nearly. But we get to see kind of behind the scenes there. And that's Jonathan Northcroft. He's the chief football writer at the Sunday Times. He comes every year and speaks to our sports journalism students as well.
And is there another photo? No, I think that's it now. But the students in the different courses and modules do all sorts of interesting things. One of the very exciting things at the moment that the third year, one of the third year module does is gets very heavily involved in the Leicester Comedy Festival, which is a really, really exciting event here in Leicester. And maybe Lee, you've probably got more knowledge about the comedy festival than I have.
Well, it's just it was started. Was it more than 25 years ago, I think, and it started in February because February is a cold, dark, horrible month, and it was just started to kind of put a smile on the people of Leicester's faces. So it's run by my colleague Jeremy Clay. Again, it's an option for third year students, and what they do and what we like to do here at DMU is to kind of send you out and do it. You do the job yourself, and you learn best, I think, when you're doing these things. So we get like an army of reviewers, and they go out and they will do Tom Stade at the Tonic, and they will do Joe Brand, and they will do the Laurel and Hardy Cabaret, all of these things. They go out and review them. We check the reviews, and then we publish them. I think we published more reviews this year than the local paper, which is, that's no mean feat, really.
And I mean, the one thing that is an attraction to that is the students usually are able to organise free tickets to go to that. And we're working very, very closely with the main organizer of the whole event because we're planning to improve our link-ups with them next year. I just want to mention that there was a question about the first term of university in terms of coronavirus. we will be we are reshaping the schedule of how we're doing our teaching plans. For example, we won't be holding huge lecture rooms full of students, but we will be continuing with our courses, and our practical courses will continue to be taught in many different ways. We do, as part of the courses, we use the internet and social media as core parts of our courses, and that is also translatable when, for example, students are working at the moment from home. I've got students who are working on stories at the moment from Bedfordshire, from Hertfordshire, some in Leicestershire. They're still able to continue working stories, and we're reshaping our teaching plans so that we will continue to work closely with students, in their normal patterns of workshops and so on, even if some of it is done via video link-ups, which is what I've been doing these last few weeks. We've been having video lessons and liaising with students in that format. So we will continue to have run our modules and journalism courses, and students are learning new lessons as a result of COVID-19, which are very valuable lessons about journalists never stop.
Great. So we've got time for just one more question. We've had a question about the choices that journalism students get to sort of specialise, because someone's asked about how other universities have sort of sports journalism courses solely. So how come we don't have like a sports journalism course solely? That sort of thing.
Well, I'll maybe let Lee jump in a moment, but I'll go back to what I was saying earlier on. We believe firmly in teaching this sort of the fundamental skills of telling a story in the early days of the courses. Now, that skill is something that is translatable whatever you're specialising in. It is a core skill in all formats. And there's nothing stopping students from writing sport stories or whatever in those years and in those other modules. So I think, Lee, for example, in your feature writing, I think you've had people doing in the second year modules have been writing sports-based stories and interviews, and that happens throughout the years. The other specialist areas that we do is there are broadcast strands. So even students who are not doing the full broadcast journalism degree can choose to do specialise in the sort of more broadcast strands of being a journalist. Magazines and feature writing, blogging, the podcasting is an area that we plan to improve to build more into the course, and Beatrice has actually pointed that out to me that we haven't focused enough on that. So I mean, if you're wanting to be a sports journalist, and we have many students who go through our courses doing that, they can specialise in sport as they go through all years. But the key sports journalism topic comes in the third year.
But I think just to reiterate, I think what we teach you to be first and foremost is to be a really good all-round journalist first of all, and we equip you with those skills. We equip you tenacity, good writing, good English. All of those things are really crucially important if you're going to be writing about travel or food or music journalism or sport. So I think that's really key, and we kind of drill that into you in the first year and the second year, and in the third year, that's when you get to choose, and that's where you get to specialise really.
I think just to finish that off is that people often change their minds, and the way we shape our courses is that you can change your minds and delve into different areas that you maybe initially might not have thought that was your field of a career choice. So young people coming in the first year who may think that they wanted to be a sports journalist may by the second or third year find that actually the arts reviewing and critique area is something that they love, and that's gives them the opportunity to chop and change. I think we're probably, Alice, probably running out of time now, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. We're going to have to wrap up, unfortunately. So thank you very much for joining us if you've been watching on the stream and for asking your questions. We've got loads more live streams coming up, and we do have a digital open day on the 4th of July. So you can book onto that and you'll be able to ask questions and have a bit more of information about the university as a whole. We also do have a buddy system. So if you want to ask any students that are currently studying now and you have some burning questions, you can message them on UniBuddy. I'm a UniBuddy for media production. I believe we have one for journalism, so you can go on there and ask any questions about that, even if it's just generally about sort of accommodation or the city of Leicester, anything like that. You can go on and ask about that there. So yeah, that is the end of our live stream today. Thank you all of you for joining us, and thank you everyone for watching.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.